Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming along for this very special session. My name is David Cameron Smith. I'm a Professor of Nutrition, one of 5 Professors of Nutrition in the University of Auckland. And so, of course, nutrition plays a very important role in terms of what we do as a country. What we do as a country is we produce food. We produce food for export. And so what I'm going to try to do in my 3 to 5 minutes is give just a little snapshot of who we sell that food to and what we know about the consumers. But one thing I do know is that consumers equal customers. And it's the customers that are always right. And so this session today is about understanding the consumer or the customer. The desires and needs and wants of that consumer will dominate the economic opportunities for New Zealand. I also have a particular focus on health, and I believe very importantly that health remains a key attribute of New Zealand food, and we should continue marketing towards what we do well as a country, which is selling things in relation to that key attribute of health. So who are we and what are we? I don't think many people in this audience need a reminder, but we are a very small country tucked down the bottom of the South Pacific. There are more sheep and cows than humans, and of course, the success of New Zealand as a country, the thing that keeps us in the lifestyle that we are focused on, is what we sell to the world. And we sell to the world food and beverage predominantly. Food and beverage constitutes the majority of our export, and we are the 3rd largest dairy exporter in the world. And so when you look at the makeup of what we sell to the world, it is food and beverage that dominates. And so you can see that dairy constitutes 25% of the export from New Zealand, followed by meat, and then there are a number of minor categories that are after that. So of course, dairy is very significant for New Zealand, and it's a very significant element in selling to the world or enabling us to live the lifestyle that we're focused on. But just a little bit of context. The context is, and you've started to see it. So this morning I did a very, very brief synopsis of what's been in the media over the course of the last few days, and you can see that the newspaper is starting to make statements that indicate that all is not well in relation to the dairy sector. This, if you could read it very closely, is Fonterra. Fonterra represents about 90% of the New Zealand dairy trade, and you can see the declining from the bottom to the top, the declining price that's offered to farmers. 390 is placing a significant proportion of farmers at risk of serious debt. The New Zealand dairy industry is estimated to have a combined debt of $38 billion. And when you compare it to the Halcyon days just 2 years ago, when farmers were attracting $7 to $8 per kilogram, that is a very significant difference in the price that enters the New Zealand economy through our major export product. So $38 billion worth of debt that will have significant ramifications. And so you see wonderful cartoons like this, which are suggesting that we need to do 2 important things. The first important thing is to start focusing and thinking about diversification. The second important thing is to start thinking about the customer, the consumer, what we can do to be closer to that consumer. So who are our consumers? Well, this graph shows the relationship between market size and growth. Australia represents the largest market for New Zealand, but when you look at the growth, the height on the y-axis, you can see that there is one bullseye that stands out, China. And China is the most significant growth market for New Zealand product. The customers are in China. The customers in China are not poor. China, of course, is increasingly affluent. It is more affluent than New Zealand. The cars on the freeway are better than the cars you drive. The clothes and the accessories that they buy are significantly better than the clothes and the accessories that you buy. It is a very affluent and sophisticated market. But there are, of course, some very interesting success stories that have been noted again within the media. And so A2 has been identified as a success story. You've all read it. This was in Sunday's paper just last week. And it talks about the rise of A2, which is the highest performing share on the New Zealand stock market over the course of 2015. So what is the secret of A2's success? The secret of A2's success is this convoluted diagram where I'm going to draw a relationship between production and customer. The customer or consumers are way out here, and there is a very, very interested convoluted loop through all sorts of intermediaries that ultimately lead to the farm. The important point to note from that is that what we do in New Zealand still is a long way removed from what is happening in the consumer market. Understanding the consumers represents the most important challenge in value adding New Zealand food and beverage. So, my final point is as follows. Consumers equal customers, and consumers pay at the point of sale, and we need to understand those consumers in terms of their aspirations, needs and wants, particularly in relation to what we can do as a country. We should also gear and focus our R&D efforts as a country towards how we can add value, not only in a single sector, but diversifying from that sector and adding value add as much as we can within that sector. So, New Zealand has a long way to go in terms of understanding the consumers that we ultimately sell our food and beverage to. So I hope that this seminar today provides more of an insight in terms of how we can transition from where we are today to what the exciting opportunities are. Unless we do so, there is a dire economic future for New Zealand that will affect all of us Jaffas living firmly in our inflated prices here in wonderful Auckland. It's a dire state of affairs. So, on that wonderful note, let me introduce Professor David Hughes. As I said to Professor David Hughes, he needs no introduction, but he said that he would give a brief introduction in terms of what he does. But what I do know is that David has been through New Zealand on numerous occasions. He's contributed to the evaluation of the science and the business plans that have formed High Value Nutrition, the National Science Challenge. He is an international research leader in understanding consumer attitudes and trends. And so I think it's very, very significant that we have him and his time. And of course, he has the floor for as long as he wishes